Hello, and welcome to the Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. I'm Bev Heinritz, Program Director for GBTA Win-It, and I'll be your host for today's episode, which today's topic, today's Win-It podcast is made possible by American Airlines, and the topic is There's Power in Women Supporting Each Other in the Workplace. And I'm really glad to have Cynthia Barnes and Jennifer Miranda, who are both a part of the American Airlines Global Sales and Market Initiatives organization. They work together, they've mentored probably each other along the way, and have a lot to share with us about the organization, as well as their experiences with mentorship and their other women's programs. So thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. I think we'll start here, first of all, to talk a little bit about sort of what it is that an organization, how they prioritize women's programs. And according to the 2022 leanin.org McKinsey study for women in the workplace, the stable stakes for organizations to drive gender equity within the company is to have women's employee resource groups. And to make meaningful progress, even more formalized mentorship and sponsorship programs are necessary. So I'd love it if you could tell us about your experiences at American. And because you started at really different times of the organization, I think you can give us some really interesting perspective on how that's evolved. But Cynthia, let's start with you, and you can talk us through what it was like as you started with American, and then Jennifer, as how it changed when you joined.
Absolutely. I started in the early 90s, so it's been quite a while back. And the programs we had were just very different back then than what we have today. Gender equity wasn't really a thing, I feel like, back then, and certainly not something that we talked about as broadly as we do today. In fact, I remember shortly after I started with American, I became pregnant. And I was really hesitant to share it publicly. And I waited until I was over 5 months. And it wasn't because American made me feel like I couldn't share it. But I think we as women back then had a very different expectation of ourselves, right? And what really equity meant back then and what it meant to have a child in the workplace. So we certainly didn't show off our bumps as we do today, or if women do today, we hit it. And we had expectations of long work hours with much less flexibility. And now I would say the environment is so completely different. It's a completely different world. There's so much support for women. The whole women equity movement has definitely made an impact in our organization. And now I would just say American is well beyond the table stakes of just having women employee resource groups. I'll let Jennifer talk about now what it is now, because she has just recently joined American.
Yes, so I joined American in 2017, so 7 years ago. And I feel like at the time I came in, American had a clear focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had robust ERG groups, so employee resources groups, like the Professional Women in Aviation that has 22 chapters currently. Through the company, I've also been given the opportunity to participate in mentorship and leadership programs within the company or sponsored by it that have allowed me to learn from incredible women leaders. That being said, I believe formalized programs are necessary to set the tone for the enterprise and to hold everyone accountable to the importance of inclusion. But what comes after as a result is what is really the most impactful. And those mentoring relationships that happen organically, that you seek with intentionality and purpose, are the ones that allow you to grow and empower you when you need it most.
Well, Jennifer, I think you're right about that. And it's interesting because as we were speaking earlier, I asked if you too, because you're close colleagues and work colleagues there, but did you ever have a formalized mentorship? And your answer was interesting, just for what you said there. How did the two of you work out a mentorship program, and how did that evolve for the two of you?
So I'll start, and Cynthia, you can add to it. when I started so we were both working under the same leadership team. I was an analyst and Cynthia had recently joined as director. And when I was starting to transition into a leadership role, I had already kind of seen Cynthia in meetings and interacting with her team. So I just asked her, hey, I'm new at this. I would love it if I could set up a weekly or biweekly meeting with you just to get your thoughts and to kind of hear from your perspective. How can I kind of manage different situations? And it was something informal. It wasn't like the perfect email, the perfect conversation. It just came naturally. And I like there was no structure to it. It's like I'll show up if we like we'll have if I have questions, we can go through the questions. But as it happens, I think I always had something going on that I was like, I would appreciate your perspective on this. And I think that started that while I was starting, and then it kept evolving. And I mean, now she's my boss, but I think it's been mutual. And it started as, hey, I might need some kind of guardrail or guidance as I step into this, but it has evolved into not only leadership, from a leadership perspective, from an industry perspective, from a business perspective. It's just nice to have someone that has walked through what I'm walking through right now.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah, so what I will add there is Jennifer and I have this mutual relationship, as she mentioned. And while it might have started out as, hey, could we have one-on-one so that I could get some guidance into things? What we quickly found out is that we mentor each other because I bounce things off of her, or I get guidance from her. And it's developed this relationship and this mentorship relationship that I believe is really the most impactful. And that's when it's a two-way, and it's when you can rely on each other as women supporting women, really be there and talk about missteps. I misstep all the time. Everyone does. And to have another woman that has your back and is in this relationship where they say, hey, in this area you might have not noticed this, but this happened, or whatever that might be. So what I've found is that the most powerful mentorship relationships, whether they start in a formalized program or just organically, are really the most impactful when they're two ways, because it doesn't matter if you're a leader, if you're an individual contributor, what your function is, it's how you approach it and in the way that you support each other. So I would say that has been really impactful for us, because I think we both turn to each other when we need, a sounding board, or when we need to bounce an idea. And that's the kind of mentorship that really, in my opinion, works really well.
Well, I think it's great that you're open enough, Cynthia, to, you are obviously her leader. She's in a reporting relationship, but you've got to be open to that reverse mentorship opportunity. And that's really smart. And we didn't used to have a name for it, right? It was just, you're the boss and you're supposed to be guiding in all situations. And I think it's great that when you take advantage and open yourself up to that, to have this two-way mentoring relationship, it's much, much richer.
Yes.
There's a great quote from Madeleine Albright. There's a special place in heaven for women who help one another. And it sounds like that's exactly where the two of you are. And probably in a broader sense within your organization. And I know we'd had a chance to talk about that. Sometimes there's an opportunity to skip level, that when you're in a women's organization, all of a sudden there's access to people that you wouldn't ordinarily, just because of where their position is in the organization. But I think you gave me an example of how that you can sometimes reach other women just because you're in a group together, and how approachable and how much benefit you get from that.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a women's program where we have all the women that are involved range from individual contributors to our SVP, and I believe we even have our C-suite, women from our C-suite attend, and you have this opportunity where there's immediate access to them. And it's just a very different very different environment, because you may be very hesitant to, walk up to one of these high-ranking women leaders and, even ask for time. But in this environments, when you have these women programs and you actually talk about women supporting women and what we can do, it's easy. It makes it easy. So, having that formalized program is conducive to women being able to have those connections that they would just never have otherwise.
That's great. And Jennifer, have you been able to take advantage of that as well? Finding the more senior women even approachable through the programs?
Oh, definitely. Just yesterday, I was having a coffee chat with a director in a different department because of how these sessions allow for you to meet people and see where they are and see what they do. And there's departments that you're not even aware that exist, and people that have very cool titles or jobs or teams. And definitely I've been able to benefit from it and just grow my network and also my knowledge of all the moving pieces and all the different types of roles that are available to us within a company as big as American, for sure.
Speaking of, so I know that you've clearly told us from the difference of being uncomfortable to talk about being pregnant to, clearly it's a lot different now. So, we're all experiencing that. But I'm curious if you see more change. Are there broader women's organizations within American Airlines? How do you see it changing and evolving even going forward? Cynthia, we'll start with you. Is there
Yeah, absolutely. I think where I see it changing is, we start programs at times intended to be for a particular audience. So I'll give you an example. We have this women leadership program that started out for leaders that were directors and above. And directors were encouraged to bring in someone they could mentor. And I believe I invited Jennifer to one of those sessions, and you just get to invite women that are strong leaders, up and coming leaders that you feel need, that mentorship or would benefit from that mentorship. And as part of that, they ended up extending it to all women leaders because it was working so well. And then one of the changes that we've also seen is men get involved, and we have a lot of men leaders that truly just walk the talk and truly just get engaged and support women through these initiatives and understand that equity is important, and that their involvement, I think, has been, I don't know if it's an evolution. There's many of them that have been like that all the time, but I think these formalized programs feed that, right? So as we have more of the men leaders and really high-ranking positions be part of that, that really makes even more progress. So I would say that's where things are really heading in the right direction. We are expanding the programs. We're expanding it to all women leaders. Women leaders get to bring other women that are up and coming within the organization. We're engaging the male leaders who then really understand what it means to support other women in the organization, and it just grows from there.
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's great progress, right? That's got to feel good when you look at that level of expansion and inclusivity. So I'd love to hear that. Well, thanks so much. Well, Jennifer, I want to switch over to you because I know you've been a part of the Win It mentorship program. And so I want to talk about that, what it's like to be mentored outside of your organization. So it's one thing to have that relationship with a colleague or a manager or leader internally, but then the benefits of mentorship outside the organization. So if you could give us kind of your perspective on what you've gained from that as well.
Oh my God. Win It for me has been huge because the way the program is set up, so it allows you to choose and initiate a conversation with whomever you would like to have as a mentor based on your interests and your focus areas. So that allowed me to seek mentorship from someone with very different strengths and background than mine. Shout out to Mary Ellen Hess, who's a member of the Strategic Advisory Board for WINIT. That has empowered me to be more effective as a leader at a time of obviously constant change, but it also allowed me to have a more well-rounded approach as a leader in an area that isn't my expertise. I found it very helpful also to bounce ideas of each other, to have someone with a very objective view, because I can talk to her about situations I'm going through or things that I would love her perspective on how to guide me through leadership conversations, for example. And just having someone outside of it that can ground you and help you see things from a different perspective, from a different set of experiences, has been incredibly helpful for me.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And just speaking personally, I can agree with you completely. I also in my career had mentoring relationships within the company, and then completely different when you're aligned with a mentor outside of your organization. And it's really different. It's really helpful. So that's great. And I don't know, Cynthia, do you have anything to add to that? Have you had kind of that external relationship opportunity as well, or?
Yes, I actually have. So I am part of the WINIT program, and I am a mentor. So I have a mentee, and I will say, there's a lot to be said for things that are organic, but also organized programs I think are really great too, because when you have like a structure, when you're first getting to know someone from an external organization, and you have a built-in structure that you can talk about, whether it's different topics that are served up within that environment, or it's even more structured than that, it just provides this platform where you build that relationship. And I think that really drives the engagement initially that you need, which I love. So I have a mentee, Tracy, and it's been great. It's been great to have that forum. It's been great to have the structure. It's been great to have that interaction that's a little more structured and formalized at the beginning. And I think, Jennifer mentioned earlier, it's not what happens at the first of those relationships, what happens after. So I feel like these programs are a really great way to kickstart those mentoring relationships, which I have found that last way beyond the program is over. So, you'll have a 12-month run at it, but the really great mentorship relationships will last well beyond the program time frame. So I love that about these kinds of programs.
That's
I'll
great.
also add, sorry, Beverly, that you get what you put into those kinds of programs, because there's this formality and there's this structure, but as a mentee, I feel like you get whatever you want out of it. However much effort, however much kind of structure you give to it, I think the more successful it is. Like if you come prepared with questions, if you know what you want to talk about, if you have specific areas that you want to be developed on, or that you want guidance on, or book recommendations, those kinds of things, I think doing that kind of homework pays off in dividends. And then it allows you to grow that relationship just by your preparedness, and allows the mentor to be engaged in a different way. It also helps them kind of understand where you want to go, where you're coming from, and help you through whatever that development area is.
I have to add to that. That is 100% spot on, Jennifer, because through the years, I've had mentorship programs where, some of the mentees haven't really put the effort into it and they've fizzled out. So I do think that you get out of it what you put in, because in most of it, a mentor can only drive so much. But if the mentee, and I've found that as a mentee as well, if I don't put in the effort into it, or really, drive the things that I want out of it, then it's usually not going to work as well. So it's a great point.
I think you were absolutely right on that. And I was going to ask you to give us some really good, last comment tips, but I think you've already put those in there. So I'm going to shift just a little bit because we're just recently off a back from a big industry networking event with our convention. And one of the things that we often talk about is that women are not as good at networking than men. They're kind of taught, they know better how to mix business and friendship or sports or somehow, but women aren't as comfortable. So I'm curious, in your opportunity to be a part of an organization or part of a group, do you feel like that has helped your networking skills and are more confident as you build that out as well? Cynthia, I'll start with you.
Yes, 100%. So it's funny that you say that because yes, you see it, and it's great to have even the topics. So for example, being at those industry events and being part of programs like Win It, a lot of times women just don't think about that. They don't think about the fact that we may not be as great about network, and it's okay to do certain things. And men had always had the environment where they go out golfing and that's not traditionally what women have been part of. But I can tell you that I am now. I go out golfing with my boss and a couple of other people at times, and that kind of network is priceless. So I would say that definitely you've got to learn how to network. It doesn't necessarily has come naturally, but it will in time once you really do it intentionally. I think that's where it becomes more natural, and then we start feeling our way through it in a more effective way.
I think you're right. I think that intention is part of it. But you're right. It doesn't come natural. You are mindful of it, and then broaden, get a chance to get out and meet these people who can provide guidance, provide energy to your career. And I don't know, Jennifer, if you've taken that on yet yourself, of sort of the networking aspect and how to be a better networker maybe than Cynthia and I were in our early career time.
I think for me, what I've tried to, I consider myself very shy when I'm starting. Obviously, when I'm in a place where I haven't been before, where I don't know the people around me. Once I know someone, then I feel way more comfortable. But I think just being in that mindset of shyness, how I overcome it is by looking for things that I have in common with people. Maybe there's someone at the same level I am. Maybe there's someone with my same school background. Maybe there's someone that went to school for the same thing I did. And I try to find those things that kind of give me a door or a window to have a conversation, to break the ice. And then I think the biggest thing I would say is be okay with failing at it too. Be okay if that first conversation doesn't go well. Be okay if the person that you reached out to did not connect with you. Be okay and then try again. Because the more you try it, the better you become at it. And there's people that are great mentors for other purposes. So there's great people that you look up to for different reasons, but they're not necessarily the mentor that you need at a specific time. So it's about being open-minded and just being okay with keep trying until you find the one that is right for you.
I think you are going to be really good at this, Jennifer. I think you've got it. So as we kind of come to almost to the end here, there's one line that I really like. Forbes calls it the power of the pack, and women who support women are more successful. And I think the two of you kind of are a really great example for the two of you together. I think as you talk about the opportunities within your organization, clearly women are helping women. And then as you both taken advantage of external women's organizations to help you grow, I think that's really great. I don't know if you've got anything else that you'd like to highlight as an experience or an opportunity in how women can support each other, but is there someone who believed in you, who really kind of got you started down this path and was part of your pack, of women who were supporting you?
Do you want to start, Jennifer? Or you want me to?
You can start.
Um, Yeah, interestingly enough, Beverly, I have had a lot of women mentors throughout the years, and interestingly enough, I talked earlier about how that allyship is so important, and actually, I've had a lot of men that have had a positive impact in that. Almost indirectly, I will say. So, I've been blessed with people in our organization, um, you know, within sales, being in men leaders, being really involved and engaged. So, Hank Benedetti, who is one of our leaders in sales, has always been very engaged in Win It, and really focuses on encouraging women to be a part of it. My recent leader, Jim Carter, had always had a focus on women and encouraged me to be part of women events. We sponsored events that were specifically to pursue um, you know mentorships and to hear from other women leaders. And then, my current boss, Thomas Rajan, is also very, very supportive and has encouraged me to continue being part of those women's programs. And as part of a women's program that I am in today, which is a cohort of 12 women from different industries, it's just amazing what you do. So I don't know if there's, when you talk about a pack, here's a group of 12 women that are leaders within different organizations and industries. And we find out that we all have similar, very, very similar, as much as our industries are different, very similar situations on how we're perceived, how we should approach our communications differently as women. And the fact that I've had men that have encouraged my participation in that and have supported it, I just think I have the best of both worlds.
You do. That's allyship right there. That's
Exactly.
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
And
from my side, Cynthia obviously has been key to my development, just because I've known her since as from an analyst role. So Cynthia's a good example of just women supporting women for me. But I also have women supporting me that are outside of the company. I have women supporting me within the company that are at the same level I am. I have women supporting me that I've done projects for, or that have met me in passing for a specific kind of task. So it's not always something where it's not only about mentorship for me, it's also about kind of sponsorship and having those people that speak positively about you in rooms where you're not even in. And the allyship piece, like Cynthia mentioned, like Jim Carter was a great example of that to me, because he was my first leader as a leader, and he felt strongly about he's very passionate about leadership in general, but he felt strongly about opening doors for women. He gave me the first opportunity as a leader and then mentored me through that first year. He was the one that encouraged me and sponsored me to participate in GBTA's Win It. So like there's different levels. Is the mentorship level, is the sponsorship level, and then the allyship level. And I think they all kind of give you a solid foundation and then help you how to be each one of them for someone else.
Jennifer, we're going to stop at that, because mentorship, sponsorship, allyship, perfect way to kind of put a great ending to your story, and to how you and Cynthia work together. So I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us. I also want to thank American Airlines for making this podcast possible. I think you've given us some really great insights on your personal experience as women within your organization, and then within your industry. I am going to do a shameless plug for Win It. GBTA Win It is an advocate for gender equity in the business travel industry. We welcome women and men to join us on this journey to build the workforce of the future and to help women thrive at any level of their career. You've been listening to The Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. For more information about GBTA and its work, visit gbta.org, and be sure to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, thanks for listening.